This is Justin Barrick with Interstate Garage Doors, and you're listening to the Tracks and Tackle podcast.
Do you hear that? That's a gobbler hammering on the next ridge, and today we're figuring out how to bring him in. Spring gobbler season is in full swing here in Pennsylvania, and Josh Barrick is back on the mic to talk turkey, literally. From mountain ridges to open fields, we dive deep into how gobblers respond to pressure, calling tactics, and terrain. Whether you're adjusting your setup mid-hunt or just trying to outwit a henned-up tom, this episode's packed with real-world strategies and what-if scenarios. Get ready for practical tips, hunter insight, and some fun stories from the field. Hey folks, welcome back to Tracks and Tackle, where nature is our playground. Got a good one for you tonight. Got our good friend Josh coming back. Josh Barrick, let me bring him on the stage. How you doing, Josh?
Good. How you doing?
Doing great. Josh and I, Josh, you came on with your brothers a couple weeks ago and sat down, had a great conversation. We were just talking. It was like the guys from the Menser Outdoors group. They had the Menser boys, and then you had the Barrick brothers, and it was cool to see two groups come together. And that conversation probably could have carried for another hour and a half, 2 hours if we would have allowed it.
Yeah, for
but
sure.
Josh hits me up after, a couple days after the episode, and he's like, "Hey man, we didn't really get into talking about turkeys, the way that he wanted to talk about turkeys." So we just made some space, and Josh he's out in the bush right now hunting and spending some time. We're actually in season in Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania starts a little bit later, spring gobbler, than the states around us, but we're actively hunting birds right now and chasing longbeards. So Josh, it's glad to have you come back on. Maybe if you want to introduce yourself to the audience, to those who didn't catch the last episode.
Yeah, my name's Josh Barrick. I live in South Central Pennsylvania. Just enjoy hunting. I'm a wrestling coach pretty much all year, but our season is in the wintertime, so turkey season's something that I get to do a lot of because there's no wrestling going on, and so been one of my passions for a long time. So
yeah, and he's a killer, folks. He's a killer. I'm not a turkey. I mean, I like to hunt turkeys, but I'm one of those guys that I'm a casual turkey hunter. And my wife and we were out the other week and open. I don't know if it's opening. It wasn't opening day. It was last week, but 2 weeks ago we had the youth opener. And my wife and we were out camping, and I had like zero cell service on my phone, which is nice whenever you go and you get away. But I wake up on Saturday morning. It's pouring down rain. It's bad weather. Awful day to go out. Take the youth out. But I got a text from Josh. It made its way through. I had enough signal, and I got this picture of him and his boy with a bird. And you were saying about getting your boy out this year. So why don't you tell us how your season's going so far?
So we've been hunting for a month now. It's actually, today's a month. We started April 5th down in Virginia, and that was the youth season. So I have two boys. Everett is 8. This is his first year that he'll be getting a turkey hunt. And then Easton is 14, and he shot his first turkey at 6, I believe he was. And he's killed quite a few. We started down in Virginia. Probably could have killed one the first day we were down. We had some birds working, and they just poked their heads up over the hill, and all he could see was from the wattles up. And he made a really good decision in not shooting because he didn't know if they were jakes or longbeards. But ever since then, until last Saturday, we've kind of been chasing our tails a little bit, playing Marco Polo with them. But yeah, we're in the middle of chasing them, so it's the season.
Yeah. So tell me, like, from your, because it's a passion for you guys, like, what makes spring gobbler so special?
For me, it's just always being able to like talk to the birds. The vocal aspect of it. It's kind of like we run rabbit dogs a lot, run beagles. So to me, that's just you listen to it, so there's always something catching your attention. And then the challenge with turkeys, not along with being able to call them and vocalize with them, but just the challenge with them. They're just a very very easy animal to pursue, but also they can be very hard at the same time. They
It
can
can be
really
frustrating.
rack
You
your
can
brain.
say it.
Yeah, yeah. So it's just a good challenge. So
Awesome. Well, so all right, you've been at this for a little bit over a month now because you've been hunting multiple states, and the cool thing is I got that text from Josh on the youth opener, and I shot him a reply back. I said, "Hey man, this is awesome." He's like, "Well, hold on because we're headed to Maryland. Like we're not done yet because it was
yeah,
early, right? You got the
yeah,
job done.
yeah.
What's
We got lucky.
well,
So
that's sometimes, luck comes into play, any outdoorsman knows that,
uh,
um,
that's
sometimes I'd
actually
better be lucky than good.
that's a pretty fun hunt. I'm real big on. I guess we'll probably get into this stuff a little later, but I'm real big on roosting turkeys.
Right.
And like if you know which limb their feet are on, that's the best way to, I think, getting in their bubble and getting to a place where you can work them, especially birds that are henned up. Um, and that hunt was a really really cool story. We went into roost birds that night. We got kind of in our spot, and we could see birds on down the ridge. So we dropped down over the side hilled, and then popped back up about 80 yards from them. Easton was laying out, glassing them out the ridge, and it was 7:40. Because I remember I looked at my phone, and it was 7:38, and like just a little while later, out in front of me, I see something fly up into a tree, and I was like, "Man, that looked like an owl." And I
Hmm.
looking at it, and I seen it, some white on it. And I was like, "Man, I think that's an eagle." So I just like lay back and say, "Easton, give me my binoculars." Not trying to hide my movements or nothing. Roll back over, and there sits a longbeard on the limb at 7:40, and there's still plenty of daylight left. And I don't know if you remember that Friday night it rained. So
Yeah,
there we
it
were
did.
pinned down. We're laying on our back, looking at the sky. It's pouring down rain on us for an hour. We got pinned down there, and yeah, it's just part of the story. And Easton had seen some birds fly up down the ridge, and they're the birds that we went and hunted. I didn't like where that bird was roosted and the setup we would have had to put on them, but
Yeah.
that's just a funny story.
Well, I want to get in. It's probably a great segue because I want to get into, scouting. I want to touch on, topography and the different setups, options that we have and that sort of stuff. And then, maybe we can roll into, talking because you said that what's the fun of it is you're interacting with the animal
Yeah.
and
Yep.
calling and that sort of stuff. But let's start with, scouting. It's the silent pregame of the hunt,
Yeah.
and a lot of guys, varying tactics and even preseason, you can get out there and be looking for certain things. But like, what are your signs that you're looking for? Why don't you talk me through that from your perspective?
So, scratching is a big thing, but it depends on like in Maryland this year on Youth Day, I kind of screwed up a little bit. I went against my one golden rule with scratching. So scratching to me is a very good sign of telling you where a turkey's been. It's not telling you where a turkey's going, and it's not telling you where a turkey's going to be.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you find layers of scratching, and that to me is like if you can see scratching, it's like a week old, and then a couple days old, and then you can see some fresh scratching. Then that kind of is some sign that I would look for to kind of hone in on that area, because there's lots of times turkeys will just kind of feed through an area and they won't be back in there for days or maybe even a week or two. Um, so as far as scouting and stuff like that, I just try to look for the layers of scouting or layers of scratching.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm a big fan of east facing ridges. What's that sun going to hit first? And then if it's hot, you get into the middle of the season, later part of the season, where are your cool spots, where a turkey's going to hang out. And I'm always focusing on turkeys all year round. Where I see turkeys, I always drop a pin, on my Onyx, what time of year it is, when I'm deer hunting or when we're just out and about hiking or something like that. Why is that turkey there? What made it go there, and things like that. But the big thing of scouting, is the vocal part. Where are the turkeys gobbling? More so, what are they doing when they hit the ground? Where are they going? What direction? Where's the feed at? What's that area have to offer with food? Is it acorns? Is it, bugs? Is it real buggy? What I found is real steep terrain. The rain this year, we had a lot of rain. It washes everything to the bottom. So them turkeys are going to the bottoms and feeding like crazy on the bottoms because all that acorns and all that litter and leaf duff and stuff has kind of run off to the bottom. So that's where everything's at.
Yeah, that's interesting. Certainly where the food is, you hunt. Doesn't matter what the prey you're after. You hunt the food source. You're stacking the odds in your favor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
Well, I mean, that's great. I know this year I've seen more birds just driving around locally than I have in many years past. Now we like to go out, we like to take the dogs hiking, so we're hitting like mountain trails in the area and that sort of stuff. And, I'm seeing them this spring, I'm seeing them where they weren't before, which is interesting to me.
Yeah, we had a really good hatch, especially like in your area, the Michaud, the South Mountain, a really, really good hatch. 2 years ago, there was a good hatch, and then last year there was another really good hatch. So the population in certain parts is really good, and that's an area right now where it's really good. Like Fayette County and Somerset, the hatches were good. We had a good hatch up north here where I'm at now. So that really, it's really, really good to see, and that's why you're seeing a lot of birds. So it is.
Yeah, no doubt. So like you talked to me about certainly weather conditions and how like rain can assist with feeding and where the acorns are and where the bugs and everything in those leafy areas are. Talk to me a little bit about topography, because I talked to your brother about this in the past, right?
Yeah.
And I hunt mountain land.
Yep.
It's not flat, and I'm not hunting fields.
Mm-hmm.
And usually, my experience, certainly I'm no expert at this, but my experience and interaction with wild turkeys they're passing through. They're not camping where we hunt, but if you can catch them when they're passing through. So spring gobbler is completely different than fall turkey 100%. For us.
Yep.
So break that down for me. Like, how much does topography like dictate your strategy? That sort of approach to is one better than the other, or how does that go?
As far as, well, yeah, it does. I mean, the topography it plays a huge role in it. I prefer to be, not on the top. I prefer to be like right on the roll of most ridges. I find that is there's a higher rate of success with drawing birds in. Some people think you got to be above them. You do. Sometimes I think it's more importantly you got to be where a turkey feels comfortable being, where a turkey wants to be. So whether that's above him or below him, if he's comfortable being there, he's going to come in. Saddles, benches, little bowls, like I call them land bridges. Like if you can get a spur ridge coming down off a main ridge that goes on, they're really good areas to hone in on. But just kind of turkeys like to be where they like to be, and historically they'll be there too. So if you see a flock somewhere this year, next year you're probably going to see a flock in that same spot, roost in that same tree, roost on that same bump, kind of thing.
Yeah. And then so like where we hunt, like down off the mountain, is a lot of farmland, a lot of grassland, and I know certainly through the summer, like the deer are feeding down there in the fields, because that's where the it's not until the acorns start to drop that we start to see the deer move up into the higher elevations. But as far as turkeys, like getting set up out in those fields, like that's what I see a lot of. Like, so if I'm watching videos and stuff, I'm seeing guys on the fence row, got some decoys set up out in the field, and I imagine they survive off of their eyesight,
Yep.
right? I mean, they got incredible eyesight,
Yep.
and being out into the open like that, um, what's the play on that versus hunting mountain land?
So field birds, farm birds, I think they're a more predictable bird to hunt than a mountain bird. You can kind of dictate what they're going to do. Dirt fields, they love dirt fields. They really like dirt fields. So if you have a farm, you go till a field up, you're going to kill a turkey in that field if you can spend enough time in it. Blinds are a huge thing because you can pop a tent up in the middle of a dirt field and a turkey will walk into it. It's the craziest thing ever. I don't understand why.
Yeah.
But yeah, like blinds and decoys are a big thing in farm grounds. It's a really good tactic to do, and it's very effective. But yeah, just figuring out where they're roosting at, figuring out where they're comfortable, which fields they're feeding in. You get a farmer just sow some corn or something like that. You know there's going to be turkeys in there within. If there's turkeys in that area, they're going to be in that field pretty quick. It's like a dinner bell to them.
Yeah.
It's kind of like burns. Turkeys love burns. Like the fire that just happened.
Mm-hmm.
There's going to be a lot of turkeys killed in that burn. I think I talked to one of my buddies that drove up through there 2 or 3 days after the burn had happened, and he sent me pictures of 6 different longbeards that were in the burn.
Yeah, it's
already,
incredible.
And there were still hot spots.
Yep.
And it's just, they just feel comfortable being in open spaces for the most part because, they can rely on their eyesight, and that's what saves them. Like they're trying to see tomorrow. Everybody thinks everybody thinks they're smart. They're not. I don't think they're smart.
They're paranoid, is what I think. They're paranoid.
Yeah, everything in the woods is trying to kill them. They're trying to see the sun tomorrow.
Yeah.
So,
that makes sense. I mean, so like, I'm just thinking of like the topography and the areas that I frequent and everything. Like we got a high predator area, so we got coyotes, we got bobcats, that sort of thing. And, they're bird killers too.
Yep.
So, the approach of these turkey are, like you said, they just want to see tomorrow.
Yep.
But how does that come into play if you're hunting an area like I am and there's a high predator count? Does that change anything, or how does that
I actually
impact
have
your approach?
a piece of state property that I hunt that is very high, and just recently, and this is kind of why I came to this conclusion. I'd say within the last 8 years, the coyote population has boomed. There's a tremendous amount of coyotes up there, and fisher, and the predators are just have doubled, probably maybe tripled. And what has decreased is the gobbling. So I think that a high predator count does decrease gobbling. It does make them gobble, less on the ground. They get the gate with their hens, and then they're kind of satisfied, and they know. I think they yelp more, they spit and drum more, they do all that other ways of communicating with each other more than actually gobbling. And I think they low gobble a lot too, which is a lot of people, they've heard it, they may not understand what it is, but I don't know if you've ever seen a turkey and had him within 100 yards and seen his head go, and you barely heard him gobble. They do change the volume of their gobbles too, which is an interesting thing that they do.
Well, let's talk. Let's talk about calling and the language of these longbeards, right? So, walk me through that. You like matching, aggressive calling versus subtle calling. I've gone out and I've definitely called too much. I think we all have, right? Yeah. But like, when do you know? I mean, because ideally you're trying to like locate the bird. So if you have them off the route, like where they're at,
yep,
that's a leg up, right? So the scouting is one piece to this. But if you have no idea where to start, and you don't have them on the roost, like how aggressive do you go? Because there's a lot of travel involved and terrain that needs to be covered when you're on the search.
Yep. So like I've already spent times in the woods where I didn't even make a call. I kind of I want them to start on their own. I want them to gobble on their own. If I know that there's birds in the areas, I'll do blind calling and stuff like that. I'm not saying that I don't, but kind of a typical hunt for me would be if I don't have a bird roosted. We'll go in, we'll get into our area that we're going to go to. We'll get to a point where we can, we just did it this morning. We got in and got to a spot that we wanted to listen from, and kind of figured there'd be birds there, and just let them wake up on their own, and there ended up being a gobbler. We were 250 yards from this gobbler, which started gobbling. Then you can kind of make your moves and figure out what you want to do from there. But as far as the calling, and actually, I'm kind of Justin will probably disagree with me a little bit. I wouldn't say I'm conservative, but I'm also not somebody that just like calls a lot. Like I feel like I'm a good mixture of both. There's times for each one of those. But
Sure, I bet.
Conservative will kill you a lot of turkeys. So they will. Those old timers. I love listening to old timers talk about turkey hunting, and whether it's through podcasts or just at the local hunting store or something. That 3 yelps and then throw the call 5 yards away and sit there and wait. A lot of turkeys have been killed that way. So,
yeah, it's cool. That's why we do this, right? Because we want to tell stories. We're trying to educate one another and people that are tuning in, watching or listening. If there's a value add to sit and listen to us talk for 30, 45 minutes about a topic that you're interested in, I always say there's always somebody out there that knows more than me. So that's what we want to do. But so conservative kills birds.
Yep.
I want to say, like, scenario wise, Josh, I'll give you a scenario. Last year I went out on a Saturday morning. I had my setup. I was kind of high. I wasn't up on a ridge, but I was on a bench, like just over a bench. And there was a nice hollow, down beneath me. And I don't know, daylight, 8:15, between 8 and 9 o'clock, I heard a longbeard gobble, but from there it's like, okay, do I sit and do I call him this direction or see if I can? Like, how do you know when to move and when to sit? Like, that's the question I guess I'm getting at.
It's just a lot of it's distance, topography, kind of like. So last year, first day in Maryland, I'll give you a story kind of that goes kind of along.
Perfect.
I was hunting down in Maryland. Justin actually came down and hunted with me, and we get on some birds on the roost. Went out this ridge, kind of got ridge come down, and then they were on this bump right here. And we got on this ridge, and when we get on that ridge, there was scratching like crazy, and it was like all kinds of phases of scratching. So I was like, man, this is perfect. Like, this is where we want to go. And we kind of got, at that point there, we got kind of conservative with our setup. We didn't get too close because it's like there's so much scratching here. The birds are going to come here. We don't want to kind of screw them up. They ended up pitching down. A bunch of hunters and stuff come in, and we listened to hunters and stuff. We were lots of people. It was the first day in Maryland last year, and it's a piece of public that gets hammered up pretty good. But anyway, Justin had to leave, and that turkey gobbled at 10:35, and he was down in the bottom. And just looking at the topography, looking at the woods, like the woods is a huge thing because I was really, the woods is really open. Once I got down off that ridge, it was very wide open woods, so there's not really much that you can do in that case anyway. But I had all the sign there, and I think at 11 he gobbled at 10:35. I called, made 3 yelps, and some clucks and some purrs, and that was it. And at 11:40 my gun went off. So it's just kind of being where if you're where they want to be, or if the terrain allows you to get to them. Like we've already, got as tight as we could to them. Today we did that. We had birds and we got as close as we could. I mean, we got to within 50 yards of them turkeys. And I mean, when he gobbled, he parted our hair. And it was just what the terrain allowed us to do. Leaves were wet, and if you can, I call it their bubble. If you can get in their bubble, even if they got hens, you got a pretty good chance at killing one.
Yeah, so, that's awesome. That's awesome.
I would say
What?
terrain, like just what your terrain allows you to do. That's how I would base my move, my next
All
move.
right. Yeah, I
Calling
mean
goes the
it's
last
really
one.
up and down where we hunt. So,
Yeah,
if you start chasing them downhill, it's a long walk back up.
yeah,
That's all
it
I'm
is.
saying.
Yeah, and that's
Um,
calling's the last thing I do. I won't do that until I know that we're at a spot where we can kill him. Because like once you make that first yelp, you don't know what he's doing. In most cases, when they stop gobbling, they're doing one thing: they're moving. So they're
yeah,
either moving to you or they're moving away from you. So like I know guys that'll call and they'll gobble, and then they'll start moving towards gobble. Well, then the turkey's coming to them, and then all of a sudden, it disappears. And what happens? You probably end up bumping that turkey because he was coming in.
yeah. You audibly, he's located you. Once you go there.
Yep.
All right. Well, so like obviously, I imagine you guys use mouth calls, but if you're
Yep.
hunting in a group and stuff, like, what kind of call? What's your favorite type of call?
So I
Slate
build mouth.
calls.
I build mouth calls. So my favorite, I like to run a diaphragm. Yeah, I got a couple buddies that build calls too. So, but I have a Pat Straws or Slate call that I absolutely love. I have a aluminum call from Cold Smith Custom Calls in St. Thomas that I absolutely love. That thing is pure turkey.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great call. I'd call them and order one. It's a aluminum friction call on blue maho wood. It is a freaking killer. Um, but a little bit of everything, man. You get wing bone calls, trumpets, box calls, all that stuff. And my thing is, the more different you can be from, I wouldn't say hen. Every hen is so different. Like from one hen to the next, there's so much difference in their yelp. But like hunters, the more different you can be from what else is in the woods. Like we hunt a
Mm-hmm.
lot of pressure. A lot of our birds are pressure. They've been
Sure.
by Saturday, and obviously the third Saturday, they've heard almost everything. So the more different you can make yourself, the better off that you're going to be, as far as your vocal is. But my favorite's probably mouth call. That's my passion call to use. But a slate call, you can't beat a good slate. I called my first turkey in at 9 with a slate. So
So how did you get in? Like, when did you start like making your own calls? I didn't even personally myself. 2 years ago, I didn't even know there was a whole community of people out there that made like trumpet calls and wingbone
I made it.
calls, and
Yep.
and I've always just hunted with a slate call. I mean, I'm familiar with box calls, but I got a mouth call and a slate call, and I got one that's like it's a part aluminum, part glass, part
Yep.
slate. And I carry that a lot, but I didn't even know there's like a whole community of guys that like make calls out of the wing bone of a bird and stuff like
Yep.
that, and it's
It's pretty
awesome.
cool. Um, Yeah, I saved we saved Easton's from his turkey shot last weekend, and we're gonna make some wing bone calls with that one there. It's pretty neat. But I got into making calls. I think 2012 was when I started because I got tired of spending $11 to buy a diaphragm when you can build one. Like I could buy for what was it for like $60 or something. I could buy enough material to build 100 three reed calls.
Yeah,
So I was like, this crazy to keep spending 11, but and then it was the call that I like to run. The company had sold out to a bigger company, and the call it just wasn't the same. I think I had
it's not
bought
the
like
same when that
I
happens.
bought
Yeah.
I bought 6 of them that year, and every single one sounded different, and none of them sounded good. So the just the consistency and stuff. Now there are call makers that build a really good call, but that's just what made me get into it, and I've been making them ever since. So
All right, I got more questions then. Like this is a bit of a rabbit trail, but I'm fascinated by this, because I'm like a hands-on guy, do-it-yourself guy, like as much as you can, right? And so like consistency, like how do you ensure call A is near neighbor, like
I
no
will
two calls are exact, right?
yes, I will argue with anybody. You cannot make 2 diaphragms the exact same, and I don't care what jig you're using. I don't care what material you're using. I just find it very, very hard to believe that them latexes get they come in like a sheet, like this, and then they end up cutting them into little,
Yeah.
2x3 or whatever chunks, and there could be so much inconsistency in that latex, that it's just really not close. You can get them close. I can get them pretty close. I got a good friend of mine that builds calls, and he can get them really close. But it's just you're stretching and stuff like that. Like it's just not.
It's like
What should I say?
no two
Like, a
snowflakes
master.
are the same, right?
Yeah, and it's not like you could get. I could make you 10 calls and do everything the exact same, and you could get 6 different sounds.
Right.
Six different yelps out of it, and you might not even be able to run 3 of them. Kind of thing. That's why I'm not a big fan in selling calls. I've never been. I've always just given calls to close friends. One year I kind of went a little crazy. It was probably 2 or 3 years, but where I think I put like 100 to 150 calls out, and they were all over the place, and they did really, really. I mean, there's a lot of people that had a lot of success with them, but then you get people that are like, oh, that thing's junk. This is, and it's just I'm not. I just do it for fun. I do it to help people out, and it's very hard to be consistent with it.
Yeah. So that was my first question. My second, I guess, follow up would be, how often do you cycle through, when, I've used this call for a season. How often do you like cycle through it if you're making your own?
So I have one call in my call pouch right now that's 4 springs old. And that call has talked to a lot of turkeys.
Yeah.
And I used it this morning. I used it today. So it all depends. They do. Depends how you blow. Depends how they're made. What latex is it? Prof? Is it what thickness of latex it is? I think the cut has a lot to do with it.
Sure.
I keep mine. I keep mine in the fridge. Now, last year, my call thing stayed in my truck, and I was really concerned that I was going to lose that one call. And to my surprise, it sounds just as good as it did last year. I soaked it in mouthwash, and it's pure turkey. It's
the care matters too. It's just like it's all your equipment. You want to care for it, but I think that like whether you're fishing or you're hunting or whatever it is you're after, when you find something that works, like then you swear by it.
Oh, yeah.
And when people ask, well, what works for you? Well, this is what works. You got to try it, but what works for you might be different for me or from the next guy that's listening, so that's what's the fun of it is, because you're right. Like we put stuff out online here, and certainly we don't claim to be experts on anything, but there's always somebody that's going to respond and say, well, I didn't know how I would do it.
Yeah, and there's so many and that's true what you just said. A guy could go out there, first day of turkey season and just completely wear out a turkey call and kill a turkey that would have came into anything. You know what I mean? He was on a suicide run that morning, and then he goes and he's like, "Well, this is how I did it. This is how and it's just different. Every situation is different. Every turkey's different. Every hunt's different. There's just.
That's why I said earlier, sometimes it's better to be lucky than good.
It's all, Justin's a real big on its luck. I think that you create your own luck in turkey.
You can increase your odds without a doubt.
Yes, I'm a firm believer. Yes, there is luck, but you create your own luck. But I know me and Justin, we go round and round on that sometimes.
That's how brothers are. All right, so let's shift from calling and go back to setups. You had mentioned you want those east facing, where's the sun going to hit?
Yep.
Why don't you give us some tips and tactics on that?
Stay out of the sun. Your hide's important. Your hide's more important than anything else. How hidden you are. What is, I actually got up and moved. I was hunting the morning last week, and I had to get up and move because the sun had come up and it started hitting me. A turkey 2017, I killed a really, really good bird down in Maryland. We were hunting some east facing ridges. Hunted this bird, killed him on the third morning I hunted him. I was with my buddy Jared. and I shot my turkey, and at the gunshot of my turkey, another turkey on the next ridge over gobbled, and he had been gobbling all morning, but when I shot, he gobbled. I'm like, man, listen, let's get down here and let's get set up on this bird. And I don't think Jared was real convinced that it was going to come in because it was clear, down there it's like straight down and straight up, and it's big ridges. So it's funny because where he was set up at, he was getting blasted by the sun. And I'm not a big decoy fan. We had been using decoys that morning, and I put the decoys out in front of him, and then I went about 80 yards up and then rolled over the side, on the opposite side a little bit of the gobbler. And that bird come in. I mean, I was laying there. I don't know how long I was laying there for, and all of a sudden I heard the alarm putts, and then I heard wings going. I was like, oh man, what happened? Here the sun had been blasting him. And even with decoys, and I like to use decoys with kids because it takes, their focus is usually on that decoy. But the sun was blasting him. And even with that decoy, as he said, that bird come running in at quarter strut, got 3 feet from the decoy, popped out a strut, turned, and took off.
Yeah.
And that's all it had to have seen. It had to have seen something, whether it was a glare on the gun. I think he wears glasses, a glare off his glasses, or just
your watch or anything like that. Yeah.
What camo you're wearing. Like if you're wearing a green, sort of camo sitting against a gray trunk tree, I think that looks out of place. And these turkeys live there. Like you would notice if something was different in your living room.
Right.
These turkeys live in the woods. They know what the woods are supposed to look like. Hides are very important. Where you're sitting at is very important. So
pros and cons of gear to go with positioning. You talk about your camo setup and being hidden and that sort of thing. But certain gear, you're not a decoy guy, But if you got kids, then
I'm not against it. I kind of, when I started building my own calls, I was like, man, I want to kill this turkey because it's what I did, kind of. And it's not. I'm a turkey hunter. I'll ambush a turkey. You know what I mean? I'll hunt a turkey like a deer. Like I did that 5-6 years ago. I had this turkey. I just couldn't kill him, and I ended up shooting him the first Wednesday. I knew what he was going to do. He gobbled up the mountain. I'm like, well, I know where he's going, and I went and sat there and I shot him an hour later. Never called to him or nothing. Him and his head come by and I shot him. I love calling to turkeys, but at the end of the day, I'm a turkey hunter, and that's what we want to do. So my decoys are a good tool. It's a good tool to use. But I'm not. I don't carry them just because we're hiking a lot, and it's extra.
more to lug around. Yeah.
Today.
How does gear come into your setup, and how does that play in?
I'm a big leafy suit guy.
Okay.
I think leafy suits are the ticket. It just kind of breaks up your outline, especially if you get a little wind going. You know what I mean? It's really, ever since we started using solely leafy suits, I've shot 2 turkeys at 4 yards. So it's just kind of really helps, and you can disappear in those things. And I'm a light, kind of. You only need what you need. You don't need to carry extra stuff.
Minimalist.
Stuff. Yeah, and then I'm real big on boots. Can't have bright stuff on them. You don't want to have bright stuff on your vest or something like that. Head net, gloves and stuff. I know a lot of guys are like, you don't need gloves. You can't. I just seen there's a guy on YouTube that actually just talked about this, and I watch him. His hunts are great. I won't say who it is, but He said certain times of years he'll stop wearing head nets and gloves and stuff because of wood sticking up, and which I agree with, but why not just do it? You know what I mean? It's not going to hurt you to wear it.
Yeah, it's not going to decrease your odds. I mean?
So, and I get it. It's hot. Get a better face net. I know I don't know why these people wear these stretchy nylon head nets now. I'm like, man, that thing's got to be hot.
You get something that'll breathe. That's great in December.
Yeah. Those mesh ones they're plenty good enough, and they breathe and stuff. So,
yeah.
But, yes, gear is just we're kind of light because we usually are pretty far in. A couple of the spots that I hunt up here, the one right up here, it's a 4-mile hike in until we even start hunting. So
Yeah, one of the best things I ever got was a good turkey hunting vest, right? So it's got a seat in it. It's got all the pockets. It's
yep.
really probably problematic. It has so many pockets because then I'm wondering, like, all right, where did I put my striker? Where did I put my call? Where did I put my phone?
A comfy seat's definitely good. Like those, I wish those lounge chairs were nicer. Justin and Chris love them lounge chairs, and I love sitting in one too. I just hate carrying the stupid thing. But man,
Yeah.
you talk about getting in one of those, and you can sit there and not move for hours.
Right.
Sometimes that's what kills them. So
yeah, well, it's being still. It's just
yeah.
it's being patient and not right place, right time. Outsmarting them. So, all right. Well, walk me through some common scenarios. What should you do? Talk me through. So, give me some stories here of do's and don'ts when it comes to the spring gobbler. Because let's say it's 9 a.m. and the bird, it's henned up.
Well, yeah, you get birds that are henned up. To me, if a gobbler responds to me at any point, I'm very patient. Like I could sit at the same tree from an hour before daylight till noon. If a gobbler has answered me, and I know that I'm in a place where he would want to get to or want to go to, so like you get a bird that's henned up, I'll kind of stay with them a little bit if I can, depending on the terrain and depending on where we're hunting. But you get them to answer you, and then you just kind of wait them out. You're not going to be able to do anything with them, depending on what it allows you to do. If you can get in front of them, that's kind of what we did today. We ended up getting into a flock that we didn't even know really was there, which worked out a little better. But we were just caught these birds on a gas line, and just made a big swing around them, and kind of was getting in front of them, and getting where they want to be. So that's as far as henned up turkeys. You just kind of gotta get to where they want to be, or be where they want to go, or wait for the hen to leave. A lot of times, bird answers you at 8 o'clock, and then everything's quiet until 10:30, and all of a sudden he gobbles within 80 yards of where you were when he answered you. And, it's go time.
So I could be completely wrong about this, but my current understanding is, when they start hammering later in the day, like that's a really good chance.
Yeah.
It's almost like they're like you said on that suicide run, they're ready to die because they're still on the search, after say 10:30, 10 a.m.
Yeah, I don't like a hard goblin turkey. One that really rips on his own. Now I'll hunt that turkey, and I'll love every minute of it. But from my experience, the percentage of me killing that turkey that gobbles 500 times is not real great, because everybody forgets what is nature, like what is the natural way that spring goes, right? The gobbler gobbles, the gobbler struts, and that is supposed to attract the hen is supposed to go to him. So like when we're hunting them, we're trying to reverse nature. So like that turkey's straight he's standing up on a high spot. He's gobbling. He's saying, "Hey, I'm here. Come here. Hey, I'm here. Come here. Hey, I'm here. Come here." So if I have a chance to hunt a bird that's gobbled 100 times in the last 10 minutes versus one that's gobbled 3 times in the last 10 minutes, I'm gonna probably go after this bird or try to make a setup on that bird. But that's just kind of me. But we kind of forget sometimes.
That's a great perspective.
We're reversing nature right now.
Right.
The gobblers display, and they gobble, and that is what draws the hens to them. A lot of times me and Justin, I think we sent you the video this year of that bird in the limb. I roosted him the night before. We got in and got way too close to him. We kind of handcuffed ourselves. We couldn't call. We couldn't do nothing. We were kind of just waiting for him to hit the ground, and then we would start calling, depending on or make a move. Well, he stood up there and gobbled and gobbled and gobbled and strutted and gobbled until he had seen a hen. And birds, and he pitched. And next time he gobbled, he was clear out on the end of the ridge, 150 yards away. And the way he come out of the tree, as fast as he come out of the tree, he flew out of the tree in quarter strut. He just kind of locked his wings and sailed. So I know that he's seen turkeys, and sometimes they'll sit up there forever until they see a hen, and that's whenever they get out of the tree. So
No doubt. They're
but yeah,
tough.
when they leave midday, and you get that midday lovesick gobbler, you can usually make things happen with them.
Yeah, increasing that. So you had also talked about, you got one bird and you heard another one hitting, but like, what about a scenario where you have two on opposite ridges? How do you make the decision? Which one do you go?
Go
How do you pick?
try to kill both of them if you can, or get to a spot. If there's a spot where you can work both birds at the same time, you know that that's a good thing. Or I look at which bird has the easiest. How can I get to a point to give that bird easiest? How close could I get to that bird? What's the easiest path going to be for him to get to me? Am I familiar with where that turkey's at? More familiar with where one's at than the other? Do I have history of killing turkeys where one is or the other, kind of thing? I've noticed that where you've killed turkeys before, you always kill turkeys for the most
Yeah.
part.
It's like having I think Justin said this before, if you got property where there are turkeys, you're going to love to turkey hunt. You got property, they got deer, you're going to love to deer hunt.
Yep, same tree. I know a guy up in New York who he's killed more turkeys than most people have, and he's killed them all from the same tree. And he hunts other places, but anytime he goes into this block of woods, he's like that. They just like to come to that tree. I don't know what it is about it, but he's hunted that place and he just found that X. I always say every property has an X for deer. Every property has an X for everything. If you can find that X on the property, you're gonna that's where you want to be. So
In wrapping up here, Josh, and this has been an awesome conversation. I really appreciate you. Even while you're out hunting, right? You're taking the time to sit here and record. And
it's raining now, so we can't roost turkeys anyway. So
yeah, no, this is good. This is great.
Yeah.
What kind of advice would you get? Like, I'm a sponge right now. I'm soaking all this up. But for a hunter that's struggling to connect, like, what would your key piece of advice be for them?
Well, it's not by popular belief, but woodsmanship kills more turkeys than anything. If you know the woods, first thing I would tell you to do is I would tell you to study turkeys. Read on turkeys, know everything you can know about the turkey, what they want, what they don't want, and then learn in the area you're at, just all phases of the year, kind of pay attention to where you see them, what they're doing. When you spook them, where do they like to go? Kind of where do they feel safe? Kind of thing, and patience. Like everybody wants to call to them. Well, gobbles. There's no recipe for gobbles. There's only recipe for turkey meat, and a lot of times, you'll kill more turkeys, with a three-tone yelp and a couple clucks than you will anything else. Now, there's parts where everything's needed, but in a general rule of thumb is, that turkey you'll kill that you cut and get excited and get to come in, you're still going to kill that turkey, being subtle. And I call it like covert calling, like just small, scratching in the leaves. I've killed a lot of turkeys just by scratching in the leaves. And that's Lily killed a bird in Maryland the other year, and it was just they were walking out, and that bird probably heard them walking in the leaves, and he gobbled, and he was 50 yards down over the ridge, and he probably heard them walking
Just
in the
kicking
leaves and
leaves.
gobbled. Yeah, and they were just, walking out, and he probably gobbled like, is that a hen? And then when they got set up and started calling, he's like, yeah, it's a hen, and the bird come right in. He doesn't know if it's a deer or what it is, but they gobble to see if a hen starts yelping at them, kind of thing. There's all kinds of, take a wing, like fly down, like you just take a wing, and that's how you do your fly down. Just different stuff, just real subtle. Doesn't take, just be where turkeys want to be. Be still, pick a good hide, be patient, glue your butt to the ground. If you want to sit somewhere till 9, sit there till 9:30, and then get up.
That's
and go.
good advice, actually. Yeah.
It's kind of turkey time. they don't have anywhere to be except for where they're at, and they don't have anywhere to go except for, where they're going. So they get there whenever they get there. They just got to be to where they're going to sleep by dark, you know.
Right.
So it's kind of just today, like those birds today that we were on. He gobbled 40 yards, and it took them 5 minutes to come to where we could actually start seeing them, and they were just raiding again. I'm like, man, what is going on? Like, it's just sitting there, and then finally, I'm like, oh man, finally. I didn't know what was going on. I was getting, you get nervous. Don't let yourself get nervous. I was getting nervous. I'm like, what's happening? Because you don't want to call and kind of, but you want to know where they're at and stuff like that. So, and spitting and drumming's a big thing. I don't know if you learn what that is, because that'll kill you a lot of turkeys. They'll come in beside you, behind you, out in front of you. You hear that spitting and drumming. A gobble's not the only vocal thing that a turkey does. And I know that me and my brothers, we've shot a lot of turkeys solely on, and a lot of people I know, you hear them spitting and drumming, and you're like, man, there's gobbler coming, and that's what they'll do. They'll come in drumming, and you hear that, and then you can kind of get situated the way you need to be and kill them, but can't eat gobbles.
I like that. I wrote it down. No recipe for gobbles.
Yeah.
Only recipes for turkey meat. So that'll be the next T-shirt for sure.
Yeah, it's I know a lot of guys are like, they stopped gobbling. We left at 7:30. It's like, man, that's yeah, I don't know.
It's too early.
Different stuff for different people, but
so what would be your number one mistake to avoid during spring gobbler season?
Oh man,
leaving early.
For me or in general?
In general, to the listening audience.
Number one mistake is just not being patient.
Right.
There's so many turkeys that get boogered, and so many turkeys that just because people just leave, they just get up, and when that turkey, when that turkey stops gobbling, like I said it earlier, and I had to teach my boy this, and my boy is 14. Saturday, he struck, set up, and called his own turkey in on his own. At 14 years, it's really cool. But it's
awesome.
He's gonna be, he keeps going the way he's going. He's gonna be a very good turkey hunter. But trying to get him to learn that, like, when that turkey's not gobbling, he's not just standing there. He's moving.
Still paying attention.
He's moving. Generally you'll call to a turkey and they'll answer you, and then they won't answer you again. They'll be 200 yards and they won't gobble again for 3-4 minutes. The next time they gobble, they're at 75 yards or 100, whatever. They're coming closer. And a lot of guys, if that turkey doesn't gobble there at that 100-yard mark and they just keep coming, you get up, you think they're not coming, you want to get closer to them or whatever. You get up and you bust them, or you get up and leave, and then they come in and they're like, "Where are you at?"
They come around. Yeah, they come around and you're not there.
Yeah, when I was younger, I remember one hunt, I was on this bird, and man, he gobbled hard, gobbled good, and then he stopped gobbling, and I'd made a loop around, and I got to where he was, and then he gobbled where I was. So
right.
I tried to call him in here, and then we did it again, same thing. And another time, I remember I working a bird, and this was kind of like the last straw for me for this situation, was I walked clear out. I got the whole way out to my truck, and as soon as I got to my truck, didn't that dirty gobbler gobble on the ridge I was sitting on? I'm like, I just took me 45 minutes to get back to my truck, and he just hammered right across that valley and on that ridge. Like, I just needed to be patient.
Yeah, so, I mean, for me, like I hunt, like when I hunt, I bow hunt, and it's earlier in the year, and it's light, darker. It's not getting dark early yet in bow season. Like I hunt every minute I'm legally allowed to hunt. And I think that's part of it too. Now I get it, like different scenarios for different situations, and sometimes you got to go and you got somewhere to be or whatever. But I would just say, put your time in, enjoy the hunt to the fullest.
Oh yeah.
Hunt your hunt the way that you want to hunt it, but don't bail out early. And
if you're a hunter for anything and you don't enjoy the true beauty of the outdoors, because like you go deer hunting, you're gonna have hunts where you don't see deer, especially it's not like it was years ago where you could go, we're beyond that. That's never coming back. Like we're in a place now where like you could go some spots, you could go a week and see one deer. But like if you, and turkeys, like didn't hear a gobble on Saturday, the days that I went, most beautiful morning ever, last Wednesday, I went to Maryland, took off Wednesday or Thursday. Weather was supposed to be great. I was like, man, they're going to rip. Got down there, didn't hear a gobble. I hunted till noon. But I had, man, just a beautiful sunrise. I seen the whippoorwills were going off, just having seen deer. I'm like, if you don't truly love the outdoors, you're going to struggle.
Yeah.
Because it's the killing part is not, it should not be why you're doing what you're doing.
That's when the work begins.
Like my 14-year-old boy, he eats, sleeps, and breathes hunting, and he's had the worst upbringing of hunting ever. I don't know how many times that we've went hunting and didn't even see a deer or didn't, this or that. And I looked at him sometimes like, why do you want to go do this so much? Because, it's just, it's so rough. But I think as we mature
as hunters, like we grow in that.
Yep. I'll never forget.
You either fall in love with it or you're not cut for it, and you don't do it till you get to our age.
Yep. He was 6 his first year. He missed a turkey youth day, opening morning youth day, right away missed one. We hunted all season. He hunted every Saturday at 6 years old and didn't hear a gobble most. I mean, it was I felt like worthless. I couldn't get my boy on a bird after that miss.
Mm-hmm.
And he killed one the last day of the season, a turkey. But throughout those hunts, and like even the day that we didn't hear a gobble, the day he killed one, and even that day we had this deer come like 8 yards from us. And as soon as that deer went down over the ridge, he looked up at me and said, man, he said, I'm so glad we came. He's like, that's such a cool thing to see that.
It was a moment.
You know what I mean? And like throughout that season, it just made me reflect. Like every hunt we went to, there was always something. He was like, man, that was really cool, or the sunrise was really beautiful, or whatever, and it just makes you think like they're the type of people that become good hunters because they just truly love being outside in the woods.
You should have a takeaway from every single hunt, regardless of the outcome of that hunt.
Yep.
You should have what do I remember about this sit?
Yep.
And because, sometimes it is mundane, but it might be the stuff you were thinking about while you were sitting there waiting, or it might be that encounter with the deer that walks by.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. There's always a takeaway. So, very cool, Josh. Man, I appreciate your time here tonight. Certainly wish you luck. I'm gonna get this episode turned around pretty quickly while we're still in season, and the guys are hungry to hear us talking about turkey and stuff. But you're welcome back anytime, man. I appreciate you reaching out.
I appreciate it. Hope I get you some pictures here. We kind of boogered up a little bit today, but I'll get you some pictures here this week. Hopefully, it's going to get good. I believe it's going to get pretty good here.
Well, you're up in God's country, man. I mean, it's a beautiful part of the state, and wish you guys the best of luck, and we'll have you back on again soon.
Awesome. Thank you very much, man.
All right, everybody. Appreciate you guys tuning in, listening to us, and we just want to remind you, nature is our playground, and always, no matter if you're hunting deer, you're out fishing, waterfowl, doesn't matter. You're turkey hunting this spring. Remember to stay wild. We'll see you next time.